Mention NFTs one more time, and it's guaranteed we're not fucking tonight. You got OpenSea on your mind, when it should be me that you prioritize. Trying to get through, but it don't compute, cause you're busy aiming for the moon. You think I'm enthused, but I got some news for you. I don't care about your crypto, boy. Not even one big joy. You're on the top, hey. You always seem to find a way to tear things down, but this Ethereum is gonna get me out this town. You seen these dips yet? We could be so rich, but I will take it.
I finally got a rare one.
A rare what?
Steak, diseased breed of dog.
That's definitely an NFT.
No, it's not an NFT, man.
Kevin, I want to buy this one.
My life.
I just bought it.
Good for you.
Man, Kevin, I'm so happy to be in this community. What?
My phone died.
Kevin, I'm so happy.
I need that best life. You making mixtapes, so please enlighten me how I'm so damn delusional, babe. You're a musician, you work at Arby's. That's why I hate when you say.
All right, welcome to another edition of Non-Fungible Token Live, NFT Live as we like to call it, here on a Tuesday. I got the boys. We're about to talk some industry news, some crypto boy stuff, a lot of good things happening. Nice to see you guys today, man. How are we doing? Start with Savage. What's going on, my man?
Oh, me? I'm doing all right. We are going on 24 hours of being awake, so we are barely holding on here, but I'm super excited to be on this show with everybody. It's going to be a fun one.
Easy. My man.
Staying up late. I like it. Party down like a savage. I'm doing good. It's a beautiful day. Super stoked to be here. It's always, such a great conversation when we get some of the lads together. So yeah, just hyped to talk about all the stuff that's going down in the metaverse.
Dude, did you change your shirt before we went live? Have you been wearing that Josie shirt the entire time?
I have. It's totally just coincidental, as we're gonna, I think, talk a little about the CyberBroker quest. I just happened to throw this on. I've got my Kane handprints hat and my Josie shirt.
Yeah, dude, I've got the same one. I love that shirt. Dude, it's been a good week for me. I've been chilling. Got into this conversation of that we're gonna deep dive a little later, which is the whole Okay Bears, not Okay Bears, Solana, Ethereum thing happening, and OpenSea, and some of it's getting hairy out there, guys. I think what ends up happening is in a bull market, people don't know how to react, and they don't have a place. Most people don't set aside the appropriate time a day, right, that they need to get out the frustrations of that day, right, or the previous day if you do it nice and early. And so they're taking it out on their homies on Twitter instead.
Bear market Twitter is definitely a different feel. You definitely got people grasping for anything. We've seen not Okay Bears and Okay Bears drama that we'll touch on here in a second. But there's some positive things too that we're going to share as we get started here with CyberBrokers and things like that. So I want to give a quick shout out: Hash Rhymes, Prodigy, Marty McFly, Asmodai, Theo Vice, Digits, XPlow, and Digits says, does Ronan want to talk about Azuki here at all? Derivatives are going to be a conversation here today too. So are we talking about Azuki? What's going on?
We can include that in part of the conversation. I think it's been fun. It honestly, it was an experience that really kind of opened my eyes to this whole space and how things are going. And it kind of reminded me of honestly, like a year ago, where I was really Web3 was it, and where we were going and what this whole thing was about and why we were doing this whole NFT thing, right? For me, it reminded me that we really started this with this idea of almost a revolution, right? Of really changing the way that we interacted online, and we took needless people out of that equation, right, to make life easier for us, right, and to also hold a lot of that value ourselves. And here we are a year later, and we've got OpenSea that is effectively determining what projects are allowed allowed to take part in that ecosystem. And whenever they decide they don't want them to be part of the ecosystem, they pull the plug and they keep all the money they made during the process. And they don't give you an explanation, and there's no valid way to even petition the situation at all. So it really did. Yeah, we can definitely dive into that conversation, and we will. But I think we have something a little more fun to start the show off.
We do. I wanted to give one quick look here at Crypto Slam. This will be the topic of conversation. We've got Solana here making its way into like top sales by volume in like multiple different projects, right? You've got Okay Bears, which is going to be the heavy topic, but there's other Solana projects. There was an announcement that came out that seems to be unfounded too from Bored Ape Yacht Club. That they were looking to move to like Flow, I believe, or Avalanche. And then the Yuga Labs team said they're actually not trying to do that. So a lot of like multi-chain stuff happening today. But let's move into our first topic of conversation, guys. Again, if this is your first time here, please leave a good subscribe if you like our pretty faces. If it's not your first time, please leave a like and obviously share the episode out on Twitter and things like that. But I do have a little bit of a clip here to show here today. It's by our main man, Easy. He is sitting here, and that's for the CyberBrokers event. We'll play that, and then Easy, come out on the other side and tell us what's going on, my man.
Oh, yeah.
AI won't get out the way. CyberBrokers here to stay. You can't jam us all the way. CyberBrokers here to stay. AI won't get out the way. Yeah, CyberBrokers here to stay. You can't jam us all the way. CyberBrokers here to stay. AI won't get out the way.
Hey.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Yeah.
It was so fun participating in the CyberBrokers quest. So if anybody, if you're new to CyberBrokers, Josie Bellini, super OG in the space and just amazing person, kind of formed this team, a phenomenal team, a lot of talent, a lot of, experience in the space. And so instead of being kind of your average PFP, the art is incredible. It's full body. You've got all these traits and different like power levels and stuff. And from the beginning, I was always really interested in like these like kind of like levels of like mind, body, and soul you have. And so that has come into play with these quests. And no like roadmap, but delivering really fun content. And I think that's an interesting approach without having to necessarily put everything out there in concrete, but having a team that's qualified and, trustworthy and talented to just roll with them. And they've been providing some really fun stuff. So this was the second quest, and it was kind of like the CyberBrokers have been like, it's gone like public that they're AI. And so then like, the government's kind of like cracking down and they're like protesting. So one of the quests was to create like an anthem or chant for the like protest. And so what I did was I used Cypher, Cypher.media, which I work with, which is like to create collectible hip hop. And I used the Flowbot 5000 to just, hit that button, create an algorithmic beat, and that was the beat in the background. So I mined a few beats, found one that felt kind of cybery, and then just whipped up a couple lines for the chant. And so collaboratively using that chant with the Sansia, I think it is, had made the dope video. So a lot of collaboration going on. They threw the chant into the video, and so yeah, it's super fun. Different quests were like to create like a poster and go like stand in front of your like government building and like all these fun things, it like on top of having to crack codes and unlock the comms unit and all this cool stuff. So a lot of fun to be had on those CyberBrokers quests. If you hold one and you haven't been involved, I would definitely jump in.
I think that like projects like, I think projects like that show how NFTs can be leveraged and find value through a different aspect, not just like the utility, like the direct utility, right, to access. It's more of bringing together a community to co-create, right, like and to inspire like these moments of inspiration. And I think that like that to me is where we were talking before, like we started, like where the value in that project comes from. Like it's like the experience that you're going to go through holding a cyber broker. Like you're going to collect these NFTs. Like one thing to Easy's point, like depending on if you took place in the first quest, depending on how many CyberBrokers you hold, depending on how many steps in this quest you took, you're going to get various amounts of NFTs and different, types of NFTs that ultimately, I think now it's kind of public, knowledge. We're kind of building a mech, right? And so you'll eventually get to a point where the community will be able to build their own, mech. Because the mechs are what they use inside of the Paradigm Lost, right? So it's very interesting, to get to co-create in this universe with a bunch of fucking people, and it's all honed into a 48-hour period, and everybody's really hype, and then you get things like that happen, and I think that the value is just that network and the people that you meet along the way, and what comes out of that, right? The creation process.
And it's tied to the lore. So there's all this really, I always, and for maybe the last year or so, I felt that it's really important to bridge Metaverse and IRL, whether that's, with music events or in this instance, going out and participating, working together, collaborating. It also all fits into the lore and kind of affects that. So it's a really interesting kind of deep connection there between what we're able to do, having fun on these quests, earning drops, like you were mentioning, building our mech suits out from the participation rewards we get. And then that's all tied into the lore. And it's, a lot of deep thought goes into this stuff. It's not just kind of willy-nilly come up with a fun idea. It's all kind of leading us somewhere, which is going to be, I think, a lot of interesting and fun, metaverse interactivity, as well as doing these things kind of on the ground during the quests.
I missed out on this one. I should pay more attention to I guess Easy and Ronin here, because I put a limit on what I was going to mint, and it was at 0.25, and this one came out at 0.35. So it was above my cap, and I missed out at it. And I see it's at over a 3 ETH floor right now. So rip to the cap, I guess.
Savage, you mentioned early before we pressed live that 0.35 was pretty high for a mint. Did you guys have any thoughts on the mint price as it's related to this project specifically?
For me, it's definitely, way higher than, normally my kind of budget cap is. But because of the incredible team and because I've had a relationship with Josie for a few years and love her art, and she's really pushed things forward, in the space, and was always so approachable, I knew this project was going to be super solid. And I was lucky enough to have been on Behind the Art a few years ago and own some of Josie's art. So I was able to get, a freebie to start off. And basically what I did was because I was super low on ETH, I flipped that right away. And I should have waited till day 2 on mint, because we had a couple days. That was another great approach to the launch. It was the allow list, and you had time over a couple days before it went open to public, which it may have even sold out before it went public. But so you would have spots on the allow list. And so I was able to get my dropped one, mint that up, and then basically flipped that to be able to purchase another few, flipped one of those to purchase another few. So I was able to use up all my allow list spots, even though I started at it ETH broke, just by flipping one right away on the market. And they were, they had went from 0.35 up to an ETH in day 1 or whatever. So I was lucky enough to kind of flip some around and be able to pick up a nice little collection.
Yeah, and for me, it was kind of similar, right? Having having that experience with Josie in the past, I had access, so I was able to get in early, get an allow list spot. Then I was able to, they didn't do a public, traditional public, right? So they did an allow list, and there were basically waves, right? Everyone came in at a specific wave depending on where you got the access. That lasted through Sunday. And then there was, I think 1,100 of them left that went to public, which really only meant that everyone who got into the allow list at some point or another was then able to go in and kind of pick from the pocket, right? Because like everybody was like Easy was allowed to grab one, but he was only allowed to grab one because of that access he had. I was only allowed to grab one because I owned a piece, right? Like you weren't allowed to like freely mint or anything like that. But then once everybody came in and collected theirs and they did everything, they had an abundance of about 1,100, and then everyone who had allow list access then was able to kind of go in. And I think that helped, because I didn't honestly like it. Yes, it's gas spike a little bit slightly, but like it wasn't anything like you're dealing with like with to XP's point, like Otherland, right?
I think for a sense the Azuki drama, I've been real nervous getting into some of these expensive projects, and I would consider 0.35 an expensive project, but doesn't seem like the rest of the market's concerned about Azuki or CyberBrokers. You know, they're both flying off the map. I see Azuki still on the top of the sales charts over there. I thought for sure it'd be like, dead like Luna by now, but guess not.
Yeah, coming up to this Azuki point as well, I look like NFT Ethics kind of doxed Zagabond there, like officially. I don't know is there still a like ETH price that you guys would get into Azuki at?
If Zagabond's out.
1? Oh,
0.
Wow.
No interest.
I think like the project, that's the sad thing, right? Like one, I think the project like it has like a lot of really good like things about it. Like it's got a great foundation for like lore. It's got great art. Like it's got an amazing community that supports it, rightfully so. And then also I always I'm a community dude, so I'm thinking about like, there's so many people who have like these bags, right? Like, I mean, anybody who's buying in after this whole thing, that's on you, like for when the bottom like happens. But like up until that point, I do think like for me, what is amazing about Web3, what's amazing about blockchain, what's amazing about NFTs is like at that point you can say, okay, look, like leadership sucks, but like we as a community like really want this thing to like happen. So like sign it over, right? Like send the contract ownership to like a community owned wallet, like let's appoint like a leader, like let's do this thing and take that project and continue to run with it. Now I know like you get into the backside, you have businesses that are being created. You've got, I'm sure they have deals that were like being worked out, right, for the Azuki brand, right? Mm-hmm. That are probably, on thin ice if they're not, totally like pulled at this point. So for me, I would say like, honestly, like, look, I was watching Azuki like all the way up until that point and hoping that like at some point I would be able to jump in. I mean, for me, like if Zagabond's out and like anybody associated with like the abandonment, right? Because people don't want to call it a rug pull for some reason. So the abandonment of those projects, then you can move on. And I think like you should be able to do that in this space.
Gotcha. Easy, you got any last thoughts, Azuki?
I mean, I think Ronan just hit on it really well, because sometimes, and this is, this has happened in other instances where basically, a very vibrant community can kind of take over a project when all the shenanigans do happen. So I think that's about the best way forward sometimes in these instances. I mean, I've been watching Azuki for a long time, and other things, during this like bear market, blood in the streets, I've had my eye on a few projects like, oh, maybe if it drops down to this, I'll get in. But I'm, not like chomping at the bit to jump into Azuki right now.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we're going to focus the next point of conversation on a project that's pretty hot that people are jumping into. And that really has to do with this idea that we're moving into kind of like a multi-chain environment. I really feel like Solana was getting a lot of play here over the past week, I would say. You can see it's up about 31% in total on NFT sales on their blockchain. That's really kind of been tracked. So I'm sure there's like some that aren't even in this category, but it had a lot to do with Okay Bears. I'm going to play a quick little announcement trailer that they had in April. So this has been a long time coming here that they've been able to kind of attract the market here in May. But this announcement was from April when their mint happened, and then we'll go into the rest of the story. All right, and if you're wondering if that was a lot of information, yeah, it was not a lot of info for Okay Bears here. I'm on their website, and you can kind of get a look a little bit at what they have planned. They have different merch that they're planning on putting together. They've got a Metaverse plan, of course. There's a bunch of different pieces here on the website, but really it's a 10,000 piece PFP project on Solana itself that picked up steam over the last, I would say, week, and you can see they're the highest in volume out of the entire NFT space. And there has been some drama with now an Ethereum derivative that was just delisted here from OpenSea. So you can see Not Okay Bears was announced and dropped and sold out. This was a Okay Bears kind of derivative here, but on Ethereum. You can see if I click into OpenSea completely delisted it. So there's a couple different talking points. We'll go clockwise here. Thoughts on, OpenSea delisting these pieces. Thoughts on if you would get into Solana at any points, or if you're on any other chains, guys. So I'll start with Savage. What are your thoughts on this Okay Bears situation, Savage?
I think it's funny. OpenSea flexing their unlimited power. It feels like. I've been watching Solana. I got in Solana when it was really cheap, but now that it's down to like $50 or something again, maybe it's the time to ape into a little bit of Solana and stack the bags a little bit. I don't know if I would be jumping into mints. Seems like everything that mints these days, you wait a day or a week after that, you can catch it below mint. So, except for CyberBrokers, I guess, up at 3 ETH, the real good ones take off right away. Salty.
I think I would be next up. So I do have kind of a quick question. Was that derivative project that went up on OpenSea, was that like a legit derivative? Do the Okay Bears give you full licensing to like create a project out of your NFT? Because I'm not like super up on what the original Okay Bear drop was like on Solana. So that would definitely come into effect my thinking on it. If it was just kind of like a snag and drop on another chain, then that's kind of weak sauce, really. We've seen plenty of things, I think, that were projects dropped on Ethereum that people have just copied and dropped on Solana. I haven't gotten into collecting over on Solana yet. I have been trying to stack a little in these downtimes because I think as a chain, it's going to have, it's got legs. There's obviously it's got stuff that's top in the markets overall. But so far, all the projects that I've heard about over on Solana have been super FOMO-y. It's like, oh my God, this is the biggest thing, and I've gotten like a force field around me after, a few years in this, where the FOMO has to be so sharp and honed to get through. Like, it just doesn't, it kind of watches over me now when people are like, oh, this big thing. And I really have to look at the team and either have a show with them or see somebody that talks with them about where they come from, what's their passion, why are they doing this, versus just see something that oh, that looks cool, they're going to build a metaverse, they're giving you some swag, and everybody says this is the hottest thing. That just doesn't pique my interest anymore.
Yeah, I think that to answer your questions, I think Not Okay Bears was essentially just a funks, right? All they did was flip it, so it's considered a derivative in that way. To me, that's apples. It isn't that big of a part of the conversation. I think what's more important is the fact, to Savage's point, is OpenSea gets to choose which of these projects they want to list and which ones they don't. Somebody brought up, Digits brought up earlier in chat, Azuki, it's exactly the same thing as Not Okay Bears. It's just a flip derivative, which is the same as Funks, which is just a flip derivative. But if you look, Funks is listed, Not Okay Bears is not, Azuki is not. Why? like the, nobody knows, like, and I think, like, their argument for these is, they're trying to protect you and keep you from buying things that are, not the proper, like, project, right? They think you are not intelligent enough to know the difference between not okay bears and okay bears. And so they choose to, censor that and delist. And when they delist, it is really like, it's really an interesting, like, thing, because honestly, look, I come from the other side of this conversation 2 weeks ago, but as I've seen, like, this whole, like, Azuki thing and punks and funks and Zagabond and all this shit, it's like I'm starting to see, like, we need to get back to that whole, like, remember, this is like the point of this thing, which is, like, to give, like, creators and artists, right, like, this ability to capture more of their value and not allow for other people to censor them or keep them from being able to, like, look, if the market says, hey, we like these things flipped on Ethereum, then, like, the market is going to do what the market wants to do. And just, to that point, like, you can go to X2, Y2 and trade these things freely, or buy them, or looks rare and pick them up off that marketplace. But because the OpenSea is the majority of volume, then that's where people go, and it does have the biggest net effect. Do we want an entity that is being allowed to currently just choose, right? Like, they're getting to choose which projects, get to skirt these rules and which ones don't? Or do we demand a little more, transparency, a little more, I don't know what you want to say, like, forwardness when it comes to why is this one listed? Why is this one not? And can we get the same thing across the board for everybody? Right.
And it has a direct, it has a direct effect on the actual market. If you go to LooksRare, which is where Not Okay Bears is only listed now, you can see that there is an absolute dump after it peaked out on OpenSea. Right after the delisting, I think it's down from or at least close to mint price. I don't have the actual mint price in front of me, but it definitely took a hit here in the last 24 hours because of the OpenSea delisting. Like, that's an incredible amount of power.
And what's important to note there is that they have zero creator fees. So, like, the only people making any type of, like, money off of it is the platforms themselves at this point.
And I was going to say,
crazy.
Like,
they can just choose. Yeah, go ahead, Easy.
Well, if they're coming at it saying, like, well, we're protecting you by pulling this, you're not protecting a lot if you pull it after it's sold out. I mean, all those people are now just harmed. They're not benefiting off that in any way. It really does feel like the kind of old Web 2 corporate paradigm is getting sprinkled in here, like, little more. Yep. So I do think we need to push back against that. We need to have either some real solid clarity on why you might have a project that gets delisted, or why they choose to delist some and not others. Like Tarona's point, I think that we as, humans should be able to decipher the information ourselves and not be, have censorship, basically. Oh, you're not smart enough to take in this information and decide. So we're going to start, the thought police kind of stuff.
I mean, it's almost worse than that. They get to decide who's not able to sell. That's what they really did, because it's already been minted out, so everyone already has their bag. And then when they just shut it down, essentially what they've said is, you're not allowed to recoup your money. You're not allowed to sell these. It's not like we're saving other people from buying them, because it's already been minted out. Right. So they're just sticking with bags. I think it's extremely shitty. I don't get it at all. Flexing too much power. They have way too much power. If you're still out there using OpenSea, take your ass over to Gem or LooksRare or a different platform.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up some stats here as well as we go forward on, like, Okay Bears as it stands right now. The not Okay Bear drop, I get that they don't, they're not making much, if anything, from, like, who actually
nothing.
said that?
And then to Spy Key's point, they're not making any creator fees, and they donated all of the ETH that they made off of the sale, which they intended to do to mental health. So, and it was kind of like, from my understanding, it was kind of more of like, look, let's, as a community, let's mint this thing out. Let's get, like, this huge donation sent in, and let's show people that, like, Ethereum is, like, where, real trader. It's almost like it's just like an old school fun, like our chain's better than yours, right? Like, and then all of a sudden it gets this, now it gets this life of its own. You get all these people buying into it, and then you wonder, like, why did they allow it to go for so long? Because everybody on Twitter knew the shit was going down. Is it because maybe some people at OpenSea like picked up a bag and then let their bag go? Like, because then you got to worry about that shit too. So,
well, that's what I would say to anybody out there that's trying to mint not Okay Bears. I understand that the creators didn't make anything off from like a creator fee and that they donated everything. If you're trying to buy these for like any sort of like even short or long-term flip, especially of OpenSea, you know, you're already done there. But if you're trying to buy them here on LooksRare, there's not really that much information here as it's related to like what they want to do beyond this. So it's a little bit dangerous in my opinion. I get that it went to a good cause, but people that are trying to get into not Okay Bears now, it's a dangerous game you're playing, even though the ethos makes sense from like this single action. I just think there's a lot of people that could be hurt by trying to get into not Okay Bears when there's really nothing behind the project except this.
Well, that's the problem, right? Like they couldn't, even if they, I mean, most of them couldn't, because they, you know, they're not going to any of these platforms. So like to Savage, like to speak to what Savage pointed out, which is like, now you've got a bunch of people who jumped in thinking like, yo, this is going to be a ride. It's going to be fun. We're all going to like, you know, we're going to make this meme community out of it, because that's the thing too, is like these communities spawn up and they're real communities. They're like communities that give a shit about like that, right? Funks has a real community that comes together often and that have created their own tools, their own marketplace, their own interactions that then are valuable for that community. And if like, they're not freaking harming anybody, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think at the end of the day, we don't need OpenSea to be the sheriff. And I think that we can do that ourselves, and we can say, look, if we don't want the flips, right? Like, I was totally against that shit, like forever, man. When they flipped the damn apes or they changed the backgrounds, I'm like, this is so stupid. It makes no sense, right? But like, people in the space, like, really had arguments for why like it should be okay and why it made sense in the context of Web3 and you know, decentralization and, you know, the questioning copyright and all this other shit. And when you dig deep down, like there's a conversation to be had there, especially when you see the censorship taking place live in front of your eyes over which ones do and which ones don't get to partake in the open market.
So I want to get to a couple comments here in the chat as well. Dickenza is saying, did Solana drop again? Deck is saying, what do I do with my Terra NFTs? Dickens is also saying, Okay Bears is getting a bit of attention from Twitter influencers, flippers. Can't figure out if it's them bringing alpha or trying to dump on us. So definitely some good questions. I guess the one that I wanted to kind of get to you guys now would be, what's holding you guys back from maybe getting into Solana projects? Like when you're saying, hey, I don't, you know, get into that ecosystem, what is holding you guys back from like making the jump to trying to get into these other ecosystems? Because I know you guys are fairly not ETH maxis by any means, right? Like everyone's kind of open here to the multi-chain life, but what's holding you guys back right now from doing that?
Well, I'm fully invested, so no more new money in the market at the moment. So all my Solana's staked up, and I'm not unstaking it to do NFTs. We're already in that adventure on ETH, so that's enough risk for me.
Yeah, I mean, I am by no means an ETH maxi. I am agnostic when it comes to blockchains, metaverses, you know, basically all this stuff. I like to see what people have to offer, what other different communities are doing out there. I think when we have more cross compatibility, boom, that's going to be incredible for diving into more different chains and stuff. You know, I've got stuff on Near, Wax, ETH, Bitcoin, you know, NFTs across plenty of chains. Solana for me, I've sort of just been taking the long view on like looking at how some of these play out. At first, there was kind of, you know, it seemed like some copycat projects drop over there, maybe a couple of interesting things too. And I just honestly, in the early days, I didn't have my like wallet set up and stuff. I just hadn't gone that far. Now I do. I have my Phantom wallet. I have, you know, I've picked up some Sol on these dips, and I've kind of just been waiting for something that you know, really struck me, either the artwork or some kind of, you know, community activity. In fact, I just had the gimmicks, the real gimmicks on my show last night, and they have a Solana project, and they do like these little animations little like cartoons, and it's like about these wrestlers. It's really funny. It's really raunchy. We had a blast. The team was really cool. They also have this like whole studio, like basically, it came out of this animation studio that they had come up with a few years ago, and they're really interested in, using that in Web3. The community gets to participate. They get to do voice acting if their NFT, is in there. Everybody gets to vote at the end of the episodes to affect the next episode weekly. So things like that piques my interest more. That was something like, oh, I think I might go over and pick one of these up. So, it's really more about the, the communities that are growing up over there, and probably just on me somewhat for not investigating enough of these projects. But it has seemed like there's been kind of a hype cycle. I mean, there's always a hype cycle, but it seems like the Sol stuff, you get a lot of hype and then it kind of like drops off when the next one comes, which is somewhat natural. But I'd like to see a little more maturity and watch some of these projects grow a little before I start actually buying in.
Yeah, for me, like, I will say I'm going to speak to the Sol thing, and then I want to speak to the tweet that you just had up, Q. But to Sol, I think for me, I'm ready to jump in. Honestly, like I just haven't had the time to like sit and like look at some projects. Shout out to my coworker Patrick, who has been telling everybody like you got to check out Sol. Like Sol has some really cool communities. They're really building a lot of like fun tools. Like developers are really starting to like do some really cool things over there, and the projects are doing well. So he's been trying to get us on. Literally Friday morning, I was like, yo, like suggest a couple of Sol projects to me. He sent me a couple of names, and I just need to do the research, right? Like I just need to jump in. I mean, I gotta say, like kind of getting burned with Sol Cities, Q, like that whole thing. But
that did suck. That did suck big time. That's
so
I wrote that shit off in taxes. We're good.
Yeah, well, and then you start to think like, to talk to Easy's point, which is like, man, that puts a sour taste in your mouth. Then you're like, I need to do more research. I need to look into these projects. Sol itself felt like young, right? Like, and I mean, honestly, that was 7-8 months ago now at this point, if not longer. But yeah, so anyway, to the last point that I wanted to hit before I do have to jump for a meeting, mental health awareness. This is super important. I do want to bring it up because I do feel like one, it plays into the story, but two, like we all need to be reminded. And obviously it plays in the story in that you can see here, Not Okay Bears donated 35.8 ETH. It was matched by the Giving Block, some type of contribution 1-to-1. They were 70 ETH, which is no joke. That's 210 ish. No, I guess a lot more. I don't look at the charts, guys. But to this point, the guy the kid, I need to fix that because that's important. The kid who launched Not Okay Bears was on a Twitter Spaces earlier today. And he's been catching a lot of flack, right? Because it's got delisted and people are arguing, and he's in this Twitter Spaces, and he is definitely a kid. Okay.
Kid is in
he's having to deal with this. Kid is in like not preschool, but kid
like
is in
18 or something.
16. Like I don't even know if he's 18, man. He sounded like a teenager to me, honestly. And I don't know. I only caught like this one part, but the part that I caught is important to what I'm trying to get across, which is let's all remember that there are human beings behind all of these things. Whether it's like somebody as who, in my opinion, is not a good human being like Zagabond, or somebody like whoever's behind Not Okay Bears. Like there's people there, and when you say things publicly and when you tweet them, there are people who are going to read them and like process them from a very personal level. And I hope that we all like get better at interacting with each other online, because we don't act that way. And this poor kid was crying because he's like, look, I'm a good guy. Like people were tearing into him about like his reasoning for doing it. And he's like, I did it because like I thought it was okay through CCO license, right? Like, and two, like I really wanted to help mental health awareness. And I thought this was like a way I'm not, benefiting off of it. And so many people are angry with me. And like, and he kept saying like, I'm not a bad person. And when you get that in your head, it does a lot to you, right? So like, let's remember they're human beings. Like we're all like trying to figure this space out. We all give a shit about each other, right? Like I care about all of the people who are here. I care about everybody who I interact with online. I care about all the people who are trying to build in Web3 and in this space and do it together and try to figure it out together. Let's not take that out of the equation, guys. Because when we do, like, there are people who legitimately get hurt. There are people who lost. Let's think about this in a real light. There are people who lost millions and millions of dollars last week through Luna and the shit show that happened there.
Yeah.
Let's be thankful and remind ourselves that we're not dealing with that. Okay. Like, and life could get really bad. Like, let's get a better mindset together, because a bear market or a bull
That's
market
huge. I think super important point.
How crazy is it that OpenSea decides to take down this project where it's focused on mental health, the creators make no money, and then everyone tears apart this guy and probably damaged his mental health from this project. I've been on I've worked on over 35 projects. I see a lot of creators on the back end, and these comments that people put online are the reason that a lot of these projects struggle, because some people aren't very strong mentally. They're very artistic. And when you start tearing into them like that, then they have no more drive to continue to put out good content. Especially if it's already been minted out, they've made their money. It's like, well, I made money and now everyone's just being a complete asshole. And I came into it with good intentions, but I'm so tore down that I don't have the energy to get up and go to work. Yeah, like, I don't think how, like, people that aren't thinking about that, like, you're damaging yourself. If you've bought into this project and then you're jumping in the Discord saying, win Lambo, win Lambo, win Lambo, bro, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You got to give these creators chance to breathe. And 1 month, 2 month, like, seems to go by forever in the NFT space, but it's a very short amount of time in the real world to, like, build a project. Like, if it's a game, what kind of game's coming out in 6 months? That's a trash game, most likely, unless they've been building it for 6 months or a year before then. You just gotta let these projects breathe. This is crazy that they're tearing apart this little dude and he's just giving everything away. And OpenSea delists them. Totally trash.
Yeah, everyone's looking for the next Bored Ape. You know, everyone's looking for the next project that can really turn 1 ETH into X amount. And then they sometimes look at other projects like competitors, like in this case. You know, when you start to add money into the equation, man, people get a little bit emotional. But Ronan, I want to get this last take, man. I did have Ape Reunion here in the thumbnail. So I want to get your thoughts, like, what the heck's going on with Ape Reunion? Well, no, what's going on with Ape Reunion, and then your take on derivatives, and then you can get out of here.
Okay, my take on derivatives has opened and expanded widely, and I think that, like, I am starting to see that, like, there is a place for it, right? Like, we just need to be clear about it. We need to not make it shady. We don't need to try to, you know, hide the derivative and try to make it, like, seem like it's the real thing or anything like that because we're trying to scam. If you put it out there, this is a derivative, then, like, come on, man, let it be. And if it lives, it lives. Ape Reunion is a great, you know, one that I don't think you can argue is where they get inspired by another project. They create their own art and they take it to the next level. They do so. They build a community very organically. And I just backed into, you know, the homie Young Content, you know, was talking about them. I dropped into a Twitter Spaces. I listened to the founders talk, and I was like, these dudes are, like, really feeling the space, and they're really thankful for, like, the people who, like, are in the space listening in their community, and I want to support them. So, like, I went and picked up a few, and then I found out after I picked up the 4 that I picked up that they're actually animating the entire collection. So that guy over there on my screen is going to get animated, which I thought was they didn't even realize this. But did you see the background of my current ape? Like, it's the NFT Live background, bro. Look at it. It's the sun. It's the mountains. Everything.
Sick.
It's awesome.
Serendipity.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's the one I ended up picking up. But yeah, so in my opinion, I think derivatives, like, have a place. Like, let's give them a place and let them be, man. And let's take, like, the power out of OpenSea's hands. Let's raise hell about that shit, man. In my opinion, like, the fact that OpenSea hasn't said nothing about it and is just, like, going about business is a problem. Like, they need more pressure, you know, and I don't know how we do that. A lot of people are, you know, it's hard to get yourself out of using it because of the market share that it has, right? Like, get off of OpenSea, go to Looks Rare, go to X2Y2, do your own research, find some other ones, but do as much business outside of it as you can. If you want to sell your shit, fine, buy your shit somewhere else. I don't know, like, let's try to figure out how to make it work. But yeah, put pressure on them. And I appreciate you guys. That's our vibe, our tribe. Usually it's super happy, but I think the point here being that we all, like, want to see this grow, and let's do what we can to make that happen. All right, guys.
Keep surviving in the bear market, man.
Peace. OVOT.
Our vibe, our tribe.
All right, I'll throw that question at you guys before we move on to this last point with YouTube, Instagram, all of these bigger, larger social media platforms getting some NFT integration. But what are y'all's take on derivatives here before we move on?
Man, I agree largely with what Ronan was saying. You know, I don't for me, a derivative that is just basically a copy of something else, not interested at all. If you're inspired by a project or you own an NFT and you want to make derivatives off that, get creative and really do something cool. If because people do, derivatives that are just a few pieces, and then sometimes you have the full collection of derivatives. So it really comes down to, I think, the ethos behind what the drop is. And I think that, as Ron had mentioned, he jumped into like a Spaces and heard the founders speak. To me, that is hugely valuable. And I had mentioned that earlier. Just because something is on fire on Twitter or in the Discords, and they've opened up and all of a sudden they have this big community, that to me doesn't have a huge amount of value. What I want to find out is, what's behind this, what's the vision for it, and often you need to get, insights from the team, from the creators, to be able to judge something like that. So I think, from what's coming behind it can be more important than, the specific artwork or what it's derived from.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to buy into an ETH versus Solana chain. I might not be an ETH maxi, but I'm currently an ETH maxi on NFTs. I own AVAX and all the other different coins, but I only have NFTs on Ethereum. So if some younger person was going to donate to mental health and do a Solana versus ETH derivative, I probably would have bought into that one. It's got a great premise. Sounds like a very intelligent team behind them. If you're young and getting after it, drive is half the push in this space. So if you're, what a great idea. I can't believe OpenSea shut this one down. It's super frustrating.
Yeah, really.
I'm always super excited.
Man. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm always super excited about projects that are, really trying to impact, making a impact for social betterment, right? So if I had known about this drop and the full donation to this mental health group, I probably would have bought in, just because of that. Sometimes the artwork can take a little bit of a backseat when all the proceeds are going to something like mental health, which is so fragile globally after the last few years we've been through. And then in this space, it is really taxing. So, that is something it's really important to me. And I always try and support people and projects that are, going to try and make a difference and do a large donation towards something like that.
Yeah, all three of you guys answered that question amazingly. I think I don't really have much to add, but I like the idea of kind of saying, hey, if you have your own idea, off of a derivative or off the main project, and you can take it and run with it, as opposed to just saying, hey, we're going to copy this completely, then you're completely right, Easy. So great job from all three of you. I am going to play this one clip. We're going to talk a little bit about Instagram and YouTube integrating NFTs. I want to open this up to the chat and you guys as well, as to what you would want to see from these platforms integrating NFTs. I've got a really good clip from the CEO of YouTube talking about NFTs that we'll play, and then we'll come back to it.
So you guys are the people who know everything, so you can also easily facilitate the sale of it.
Yeah, and do the right thing for creators, because we want to make sure that if it turns out that this is an important form of monetization, we want to be there to support you and make sure that your content isn't being, basically stolen and sold somewhere else. The second thing I'd say about it is we do think that NFTs will enable new forms of monetization for creators. So, for example, we've seen creators, we've seen various musicians, and I think that it can work for creators too, where they will sell a few singles initially with NFTs and various perks associated with that, whether that's additional merch or time or side benefits. As a way of fundraising and raising more money for their community, and then funding that for an album. Tory Lanez, for example, did something like that, that raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, we really, if it turns out that NFTs enable new forms for creators to be able to raise money, to be able to get paid, to have a business, then it's important for us to be there. And at the end of the day, what YouTube does is we're a platform that distributes.
All right, so That was the CEO from YouTube currently talking about NFTs. First of all, do we believe her when she says we want the best for our creators, or do we want the best for YouTube? I think there's a little bit of an argument there. If NFTs are going to be the next big kind of distribution and monetization metric, they have to integrate it, or they will likely, fall to maybe a competitor that does. So we'll kind of break this down, but what are your guys' initial thoughts on the CEO there of YouTube talking about NFTs, and then open this up to the chat as well. What do you guys want to see from YouTube integrating NFTs? We're on YouTube right now. We're on NFT Live right now. Right. What would you love to see from an NFT point of view, an NFT integration point of view?
So, I mean, she had, words that were spoken. To really know if they are trying to benefit creatives. And I mean, YouTube has done a lot for the creative community. Before YouTube, there really wasn't a way to access so many people with just like your little video content from home or your travel vlog or whatever it is. So, I've enjoyed, using YouTube. Unfortunately, there's been like a lot more censorship and like, kind of like maybe you don't get like canceled, but all of a sudden your stuff isn't even getting in front of the people you subscribe to. You hear about all this kind of stuff. Now, like, bottom line, if you're a creator and instead of having like the little donate button or going to like get someone to like do a Patreon for you to support your YouTube channel or something like that, if you were able to like, drop a NFT that supports your like a membership to like extended content on YouTube or something, I could see that could be really cool. But it's hard to know, really where they're coming from. I mean, they're probably just scrambling because they don't want to miss out on this NFT craze, and they see it as a way to stay relevant and probably pump their profits. I don't know how deep they're going. Like, if you're just going to be able to use PFP verified on your channel, or if they're going to be like, yeah, buy, the YouTube NFTs through YouTube wallet or whatever. So it's kind of, I don't have a lot of information to go on. I think probably, it should be a good thing. But we'll see, I guess, how it shakes out.
What do we think, Savage? Oh, muted.
I think, sorry, the mute button. I think they're getting in, but they also have access to all their own algorithms. So they can see who's searching what, how much, how many people are searching for different types of content, how many hours they're watching. I think they see that kind of what everyone here on the stage sees, that NFTs are the future. And if they don't get in now, they're going to completely miss the boat. So I think it's smart. I don't necessarily know if it's to benefit the holders as much as it is just to stay relevant. Everything's going to the blockchain, and everything is going to be an NFT. It's up for grabs for which chain, technically, but I don't see NFTs going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I think I'm most interested on how this affects their membership right now, right? Because what you have right now is like a monthly subscriber fee. I think people are paying like $7 a month to be a part of any subscriber. I think even some creators can like set their amount. So how does that work in tandem or against the subscriber piece that you already talked about here, wanting them to integrate easy? You're talking about membership and all these things. Well, they have this membership piece. How does integrating NFTs affect that?
Yeah, because I know that there will be in certain YouTube content, if you are a member, and so you're making that donation, you can get access to like, I don't know, after parties and content that the average viewer that's just subscribed wouldn't see. So I think that NFTs could be a great tool for that. But yeah, it's really about how it's executed. Really, how deeply are they going to integrate with the technology? I do think it's pretty inevitable that all social network platforms, and it's across the board, everything is going towards Web3, blockchain, NFTs, Metaverse. That is basically the future when it comes to the digital realm. So I do think that they're definitely, it's probably, they feel like we have to adopt something here or someone else will, and they'll take off and, you know, be the next YouTube that, you know, YouTube has reigned supreme for a decade or whatever. So I think that's probably the way they see it. It would be, you know, it would be a great surprise if they came out with some unique, cool idea of how to incorporate NFTs that gave the creators of those channels a lot of benefit.
That would be amazing to see. If there wasn't some type of third-party application that we could actually use the native amazing platform that YouTube is with some features that could benefit creators where we don't have to go around the system, that would be amazing. So, all right, guys.
Yeah, how are they going to monetize that? How are they going to monetize that? How does YouTube get their cut out of an NFT? Because if a creator drops an NFT, it goes 100% to the creator, right? Depending on how you write that code. So how are they going to work in getting their YouTube cut?
Probably integrate some type of fee, right? You do the same type of fee as like OpenSea making their cut on their platform. So you have some type of marketplace
so it's gotta be
that
sold.
can exist.
Yeah, it's got to be sold on their marketplace then. So maybe that's the answer to OpenSea, because YouTube is my favorite bill to pay. I absolutely love my YouTube membership. I don't like ads. I don't watch Netflix or anything else, but I live on like YouTube educational videos and stuff. So if YouTube's going to bring out a marketplace, boy, oh boy.
That shit is bananas.
I'm in.
What features do you currently get for your membership?
It's basically no ads. That's what I get. You know, I'm not trying to watch any ads anywhere. So it's a premium membership to YouTube, but it basically just means no ads.
Gotcha. Okay.
When you're sitting there all day watching YouTube, those 5-second ads can really start to get you when you're doing 10, 15 hours of YouTube. And then, you know, if you're DJing or something, you can't really have a commercial pop up in between songs. So you're like, hold the party. So was kind of forced into it just by doing DJ stuff.
Yeah, Dickenza's saying no ads, YouTube music included, right? Yeah, this is going to be, I think YouTube is going to be a really cool one. I'm not the biggest Instagram user in general, but I think YouTube is going to be YouTube, Twitch, these streaming platforms are going to be interesting when it comes to NFT integration. So listen, we got two frozen individuals now here on the screen. I'm going to give a big shout out to Roden who joined us today. And I've got Easy and Crypto, my man as well, frozen here. And that, I think, Savage, I think that's our, you know, tap on the shoulder to get up out of here. This was an hour-long NFT Live, so we love going about that time. So you got any last thoughts here, Savage, as we pop out? I'll give one last shout-out to the chat as well. Please like, please sub. We love you guys, man.
No, I was just saying, if you guys are watching this show and you're not inside the Discord, come pop inside the Discord. This is how I found this group. It was my very first crypto NFT group, was LADZ City. It got me into this whole adventure. It's where I call home. If you guys need a good community with good people, where they're not just always shilling you crap, LADZ City. Let's go.
Our Vibe, our tribe there. Savage, thank you for sticking it out. This man has been up for longer than 24 hours, so we are going to give him a little bit of a break. Digits is in the chat saying, love you, Q, no homo. That is probably the comment that we should go out on. So, guys, another amazing NFT Live. We will see you on... Actually, I'm with Phantom Galaxies tonight, but we will see you on NFT Live on Friday. My man, DJ Savage. There's going to be some big announcements as it's related to NFT Live. And everything that we're doing here. Our Vibe, our tribe. Peace.
Our Vibe, our tribe.
It's been so long, so either one, you choose your wallet or me. Well, better hope you're getting laid in Web3. I don't care about your crypto, boy. Not at all, not even one Bitcoin. CEO of being unemployed. I got nothing left to give, no, to another crypto boy. Mention NFTs one more time, and it's guaranteed we're not fucking tonight. You got OpenSea on your mind, when it should be me that you prioritize. Trying to get through, but it don't compute, cause you're busy aiming for the moon. You think I'm enthused, but I got some news for you. I don't care about your crypto, boy. Not even one talk, boy.
seem to find a way to tear things down, but this Ethereum is gonna get me out this town. You seen these dips yet? We could be so rich, but I won't take it to the moon if you don't wanna come with. I need that fast life, you making mixtapes, so please enlighten me.